Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse. Thanks for joining me today. In this video, we're going to discuss the new COVID variant, the JN1 variant, and really what we can learn about the newest findings that are coming out. So first things first, several articles have been reporting that wastewater checking of the overall viral load is significantly increasing. And this is, it shatters my mind how it is that people still have confidence in the medical industrial complex at this point, because there's so little science that's going on that's really objective, and it's more and more just about the politics and about compliance. And it's funny because, we were assured over and over again during, the past 3 years that if we just rolled up our sleeves and if we just did what we were told, if we just masked up, if we just stayed home, if we just complied, then we would all enjoy wonderful health again and our economy would rapidly find itself back to normal. Well, that is not what is happening. It's funny because when you look at what's happened over the past several years, people are poorer now than they have been. And overall, I would say that they're sicker. And they're sicker for various different reasons, not the least of which is that their immune system has been systematically dismantled and attacked from various different causes. But when it comes right down to it, the way that COVID is affecting people now is morphing and changing, as of course we knew that it would. It is an organism. You can argue as to whether or not it was helped along in its microevolution, but this organism has adapted and changed based on its environment and based upon the people that have become sick with it. And so now what's happening is people are experiencing more digestive upsets with this particular variant, more GI related issues. Now this is interesting, because the GI tract, the gastrointestinal tract, this is the center of the immune system in the body. Granted, your bone marrow produces many of the important cells responsible for the immune system, but the actual feedback loop and the processes that are really governed at the microchemistry level and the little communications between cells and between organisms, much of this happens in the gut. So it's fascinating to me that at 3 years out at this point, when so many people have rolled up their sleeves, so many people have complied, that now the newest variant seems to be focusing more and more on the seat of people's immune systems, not just through the blood system and through spike proteins and through all of this, but now we're actually seeing more of this seated in the gut itself, the center of the immune system in the body. Furthermore, your GI tract is also the center of the balance between the brain and the splanchnic nerves, the nerves which innervate essentially the deep components of the body, the subconscious, and also the gut. When you have a gut feeling, a gut intuition, this is what is governed by your GI tract essentially, and this is what's under attack. Interesting to me that we have an election coming up. So it's like people's immune systems are under attack and their brain gut balance is under attack. And now of course we're being mandated in various different places, not in the state of Tennessee, but in the states of New York and Illinois. I think hospitals are mandating that people mask up in order to come in and see their loved ones again. It's funny because when you look at the distribution of these so-called interventions that are based upon science, they're heavily based upon politics. Don't sit there and tell me that they're not. It's funny because when you look at the way that politics has morphed into science and science has morphed into politics, these are not decisions that are being made by best practices and by solid data. And these are not recommendations that are being made with an acknowledgement that patients have a right to choose and that they have a right to informed consent. These are dictates being made from a political infrastructure, a fascistic political alliance between the medical industrial complex and between politicians right up in time for an election year to put people into a mindset of compliance and into a mindset of accepting to do what they're told. So as we're moving forward into the next few months, and I've talked about this in previous videos, I anticipate that there's going to be an increase in social unrest. There is an increase certainly in political violence and in political rhetoric, for sure. And I'm not just talking words. I'm talking actual violence perpetrated against people, primarily by the left and the machine that was Black Lives Matter, which has now morphed into the pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian, pro-terrorist cause around the world and also here in the United States, because we have let these people in. Over the past 30 years, we have let them in. And so now you have cells in the United States, and you have terrorist sentiment in the United States, and we have an open border where we have over 160,000 people who came in last year, and 4,000 to 6,000 that are arriving weekly in New York. This is a recipe for disaster, not just from a social unrest standpoint, but from a public health standpoint. All these people who are coming across the border, whose alliances you can argue from a political standpoint, but the bottom is they come over here, they're entitled to more than you and I are as American citizens as far as free crap, free stuff that they get, free housing, free health care, anchor babies, everything that you could possibly imagine they get for free, while you and I get taxed to live in a lower quality of life right around the time that we're supposed to be engaging in the democratic process. If you can call the 17th Amendment, that seems more like mob rule than anything else. Right about the time we're supposed to be engaging in our 2024 election, we have people who are sicker now than they ever have been. We have a domestic terrorist sympathizer element that is more rabid and empowered than it ever has been. And also, we have a non-native invading populace that is bringing with it a lot of people who are unscreened, and a lot of people who are coming from areas of the world that have a lot of different endemic diseases that we've been told, if we just kept rolling up our sleeves, would be eradicated here in the United States. But none of this matters. Herd immunity matters nothing if you have no border enforcement. If your herd is constantly receiving new members, so to speak, it doesn't matter how the status is immunologically of that herd. If you have new individuals coming in constantly that are unscreened, you're going to have a sicker herd. And that's just how it is. So it's really a perfect storm coming up into the winter. We have all these people who are undocumented, who have not gone through proper health screenings, and who, like the political issues aside, bring in a lot of economic instability and upheaval, all going into the election where we're seeing more and more problems with the left in the United States, in a world that is increasingly polarized, in a world that's increasingly unstable. So what do we do about this? Yep, COVID's going to continue to do COVID's thing. Depending on whose narrative you believe. If the official narrative now is that it was leaked from a weapons lab, now, like after everybody was demonetized and deplatformed for the past 3 years, now they're saying, okay, well, yeah, it was probably leaked from a lab. So we're dealing, of course, with a non-natural variant of a virus that keeps changing and mutating, and the latest permutation is effectively weakening people's immune systems and their brain responses just in time for major decision-making time in the United States. And all of this is, again, coming up into economic problems. Our dollar is going to become very, very undesirable internationally. It already is. And when finally the world stops smoking the crack pipe of the United States fiat currency, those chickens are going to come home to roost. When they do, how is our grid, how is our infrastructure, how is our supply line going to function? Forget regular like food and electricity and all this. What about medicine? What about standard medical care? Or not even standard, but non-standard medical care. You're getting political care now. If you go into the medical industrial complex, you have to answer their questions properly to make sure you are allegiant to the right cause and that you believe the official Politburo's narrative. If you want to get decent care anymore, I'm sorry, it's the truth. If you don't want to be informed on, if you don't want your children, like CPS called on you, you better do what they say. So this is a dangerous time to be a freedom-minded person. So the way that we shield ourselves against this is to need them less. And how do we need them less in the midst of this uncertainty? Needing their supplies less. Big pharma and the medical industrial complex is essentially the drug of the systems that most of our healthcare providers have been trained on in the United States. The counterbalance to that, to the atomist mentality, ATOM, the atomist mentality, is the vitalist mentality. This is something that I talk about in my course. My course, which is actually fixing to launch next week on January 1st. This course is designed to equip you, to bring you into a place of increased competency with herbal support during times when we don't have rule of law, when we might not have medical infrastructure, and when we may or may not have conventional pharmaceuticals and conventional medicine. How do you take care of your family in the midst of all this? How do you shield yourself from changing viruses and diseases which may or may not have been lab created? How do you shield yourself against a changing system like this? You have to return to the ancient path. Kind of interesting that we're filming with the trodden path in the back, the ancient path, is funny because we're surrounded by red raspberry leaf right now, which is one of the herbs I talk about in the course. But folks, we have to resurrect these ways of old, the ancient path. So it talks about this in the scriptures. Go and search for the ancient path and stand in the way therein, and you will find rest for your souls. In a world that is surrounding us with sickness of every type, of the body, of the mind, of the soul, of the spirit, of the heart, of the head, everything. In a world that is toxic, we have an opportunity to stand for freedom, for truth, for self-sufficiency, and for time-tested principles and truths, wisdom that's been handed down to us over the past several thousand years. And we are the guardians of that. We are the torchbearers for the future. If we want our children to have a future that's worth living for, we have to have a present that's worth fighting for. And part of our fight is not necessarily kinesthetic all the time, although I'm obviously an advocate of self-defense. Part of our fight is disciplining ourselves. The biggest enemy that we have 9 times out of 10 is the one that stares back at us in the mirror. Sloth, slack, laziness, the desire just to talk and to buy stuff instead of actually disciplining ourselves to do. We can be our own enemy. Fighting against that enemy of sloth and the enemy of laziness in 2024, that's going to serve us well, I think. Not just in practical preps and in buying things, but also in educating ourselves. So friends, that online course that I am unveiling is January 1st. If you want to be notified early on, then you can sign up in the link here and also in the description box. If you want to be first notified for that, then this is how you do it. You can also go to the website, thepatriotnurse.com, to get some more information there. The online courses are going to be the bulk of what I offer in 2024. Drastically curtailed in-person classes. May only offer a couple classes next year. My focus is just changing. Got some things and priorities in my life that I'm really trying to put in order. So friends, for the coming winter, we need to get our ducks in a row, and it's more than just buying things. It's more than just spinning our wheels. It's more than just participating in a political process. We need to be arming ourselves and equipping ourselves in physical, mental, spiritual realm, but also in educating ourselves too. I hope the video was helpful for y'all. Have a wonderful weekend and a very blessed 2024. For now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.